What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aryan with Wired Hardware and I hope you guys are doing good and staying safe out there. If you guys remember, not too long ago I talked about a certain thing I want to implement on this channel. Well, if you don't remember, that's fine. Just click this link above and hopefully you guys will understand what I want to do. But pretty much I have a viewer who reached out to me and asked me if I can help him build this PC. This viewer's name is Justin and he purchased all these nice components and he is requesting that we help him out and get him going. These are all the components that he purchased and I want to go over one by one and show you guys what we'll be putting in the system. So let's start out with the motherboard. We're going to be using the Asus ROG Crosshair 8 Dark Hero. It's the X570 chipset and we'll be pairing that off with the Ryzen 9 5900X. These two will be something like a Mamma Mia! For the graphics card, we got an EVGA RTX 3080 for the Win 3 Ultra Edition, and we'll be throwing in 9 total fans inside the system. They're from Lee & Lee, they're the Uni SL120s, and for memory, we got a 32GB kit from Corsair. For the storage, we got two M.2 SSD drives from Samsung. One will be a 1TB and the second will be a 2TB. To power all these components up, we'll be using Corsair's RM850X power supply. This should be totally efficient enough to get everything up and running. Now we do have some other accessories that I didn't really mention, but one of them will be a 24-pin Strimmer cable and one will be an 8-pin Strimmer cable for the graphics card. Also, we'll be throwing all these components inside the lovely Lee & Lee 011 Dynamic mid-tower chassis. Everything should look really good once inside and I'm really excited to get this going. So let's start off with the motherboard. Alright, so let's get the motherboard opened up. We got the ROG Crosshair 8 Dark Hero. All right, we got our knife, our trusty handy dandy blade right over here, and we're gonna just cut it open. All right, let's see what we got in here. All right, let's take out this Dark Hero. What I like about this motherboard, it is sleek and it has no RGB. Pretty much only has 2 strips, but for the most part, everything looks great. Right, so we got this out just so you guys can see it. Nice, beautiful motherboard. All right, so if you guys can see, it's got a 4-pin CPU connector and an 8-pin CPU connector. Tons of fan connectivity, RGB ports, ARGB ports. It's just a nice motherboard and it's gonna look really nice at the end. So now that we got the motherboard out, let's go ahead and install the CPU. This is a Ryzen 9 5900X, 3.7 GHz base clock with a 4.8 GHz boost clock. All right, let's go ahead and open this up, put this into the motherboard slot. There you go, cut her open. Sounded wrong, but yeah, cut her open. And there she blows, ladies and gents, there she blows. Let's take out the CPU out of its cartridge right here. Slowly, slowly, gently. Perfect, we got this out. And guys, remember when you're working with an AMD CPU, all the pins are gonna be out as opposed to Intel where the pins are actually on the socket. So be very, very careful. And like what I like to do is line up the triangles. There'll be a triangle right over here on this edge of the CPU where you guys can actually line up on the motherboard. And let's get that open the latch, and we are gonna gently drop it down, wiggle it a little bit, make sure it's nice and in, and guess what? Bring that latch down, lock it in, voila, we're done. So now we got the CPU installed, let's go ahead and install the memory kit. Next up, we got the Corsair Dominator Platinum RGB kit. This is a 32GB memory kit, 3600 MHz frequency, nice and beautiful, black. It's gonna be perfect with the aesthetics, so let's get this installed. Let's cut this open and let's get these sticks outside its box and hook them up into the motherboard. So we got some packaging info and also we got 2 sticks from Corsair, black, matching the system. Let's get these installed and going. Let's get these sticks outside its cage and get it going. Get it going, get it going. Oh my God, that was a struggle. It's like it didn't want to leave. First thing we're gonna do when we're installing the memory stick is open these latches. Now, depending on how many you guys have, you open the recommended amount. And what I like to do is barcode usually faces inward, so you know, but you want to line up the notches on the memory stick as well. Put it in and until you hear snap, and there's one, and the last one will be in like so, and there you go. All right, so now that we got the memory kit installed, let's go ahead and do the M.2 storage kits. Remember, we're gonna be hooking up two M.2s, so let's start out and let's get that going. All right, we got our M.2. This is gonna be the 2 terabyte 970 Evo Plus. Let's go ahead and open this up and let's get this one out of its, there you go, we got one out. Pop it out, there you go, there's one. Now let's get the second one out as well. Storage on days. Storage. These are gonna be pretty fast. It's got a sequential write speed of, I believe it's 300, oh I'm sorry, read speed of 3500 megahertz, which is gonna be pretty fast. Let's get the top one, 1, 2, and let's pop this open, and there we go. We got the second one, so they can take a family photo shoot, and we will install these. Now, first things first, so since we're gonna be putting two M.2s, I know that automatically one is gonna go over here, one's gonna go over here. So let's unscrew this. There you go. One. There you go. Let's get this out, and it already comes with a nice thermal pad over here for the M.2. And let's take out the second one. Out you go. Now we have two slots ready and open. All right, let's go ahead and insert the first M.2, and that's gonna just click in right there. Second one will go at the bottom slot. Make sure you just feel it click in, and that's pretty much it. Now for the top one, since it will be screwed in with the top cover, we won't need to screw it in with a screw. We'll just do the bottom one because that one will not be held by the bottom cover. So let's go ahead and tighten that up. So that's one, and let's go ahead and put the first cover onto the M.2. Also guys, remember to remove the adhesive sticker off the thermal pad because you'll be coming up with a lot of thermal issues. So we're gonna line up one notch with one. Once we get that secured, screw it in. We don't want to screw it in too tight because we got to line up the second one. And when you find it, there it is. You want to just screw that in. Perfect. And just make sure it is fully on to make contact with the adhesive, and same thing with the second one. So we're going to make sure that is all locked and loaded. Screw that in. And with the last one, make sure that's inside. There you go. Screw that last bit in, and we are all finished with the storage. There you go. So we got the storage installed. We also got the memory installed, CPU installed. Now next up is put this inside its case, hook up the Kraken Z73 CPU cooler and GPU, and we're pretty much done. So let's go ahead and get the case out and let's put this inside the case. So now that we got the motherboard all prepped and ready, we're ready to plop it inside this chassis. We got the case out here, but before we do all that, typically with AI coolers, there's a backplate that needs to be installed onto the motherboard, which is gonna be having two CPU shields on the motherboard, which are gonna be over here and over here. So you wanna unscrew these counterclockwise, remove the retention brackets. There goes one screw, the second screw, take off that retention bracket and go for the second one. Take this one and the last one, and voila, they just come off with ease. Now we're gonna keep the back plate on just because with the Kraken Z73, it does require the actual stock back plate. So we'll leave that on for right now and get the retention clips from the Kraken Z73 on here and ready to go so we can put inside the PC. We got the Kraken Z73 here. Let's go ahead and unbox it and see what comes inside the package. All right, let's open this up and let's get out the required stuff we need for the mounting brackets. All right. Instruction manual, which we don't need because we know what we're doing, right? And let's pull this out. Let's see what comes inside the box. So we got our 360 millimeter radiator plus pump, which will set that aside. Now for the fans, we'll be putting on the Lee fans. We really won't be needing these. So we'll put this to the side. Actually, we'll just leave the fans inside, and then we're gonna need the cables and brackets, and that's pretty much it. All right, now that we got everything out of the box, let's put this back in so we can make room for our build. Let's pop this back in, and maybe, just maybe someday, we'll use you again. So inside the box, there's gonna be a bunch of screws, bunch of retention clips, back plates. You guys wanna use the AM4. The AM4 bolts look something like this. So let's go ahead and put these in and secure all 4 spots so we can keep the back plate on, then go ahead and put it inside the chassis. What I like to do is when I'm attaching these standoffs, I like to go in the opposing corners just because it can distribute the weight perfectly and evenly. And that's just the way I've been taught. So just hand tying these. Don't use a wrench, don't use any kind of tools to hand tie. You might actually break your motherboard. So just tighten it as best as possible with your fingers, and that should be sufficient enough to keep the AIO cooler on top. And there you go. All right guys, so what I went ahead and did was remove the top panel, side panel, and front tempered glass panel just to make things a little bit easier. My recommendation to you guys is when you're building in a PC, make it as light as possible. Try to make it as accessible as possible. So that's why I removed those parts off the PC, just to make things easier when I'm installing the motherboard inside the chassis. So what we're gonna do next is hook up this motherboard inside, and also we're not going to be using the Kraken Z73 fans that originally came with the AIO. We'll be placing the uni fans instead of those fans. So let's get the first thing going, and that's going to be installing the motherboard, and second, getting the AIO cooler. Now that we got the case flipped down facing up, we're going to be putting the motherboard inside. You're going to find the standoff points gently, and you are going to basically align them with the standoff points. Now if you're doing a mini ITX or a regular ATX or EATX, that's all gonna matter because depending on where it is, that's where you're gonna line it up. We set that in and all aligned perfect. Now what we're gonna do is inside the Lee chassis, they provided standoff screws, so we're gonna go ahead and screw these in so we can secure the motherboard. All right, so let's see how many standoff screws we're gonna need. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 standoff screws. So let's go ahead and screw those in and secure the motherboard nice and snug. So we got our first one, and second one goes right in as well. Let's put the second one in. Let's go for the third one. Make sure guys, when you're doing your setup, make sure you do your standoff screws. I've seen so many times people just put 3 in, and guess what? They have issues in the future when it comes to motherboard placements, and sometimes motherboards just popping out as far as the rear shield goes. So now we got our third one in. Let's go for the fourth one. This one is kind of a little bit harder because it's all the way tucked underneath the IO shield between the GPU socket and the IO. So we got that one in. That's a fourth, right by the PCI Express slots, and 2 more left. Get that in too. Cool, got that in. And last but not least, the forgotten child. Actually, it's not forgotten because we knew exactly to tighten it. But there we go. Motherboard is all secure. All right, so next thing on the list is we're gonna go ahead and put the AIO right here in the middle side panel. Now, like I mentioned to you guys before, we're not going to be using the Kraken Z73 fans that it originally came with. We're going to be using the Lee SL120 fans. So let's go ahead and attach those, and then screw in the 360mm radiator and attach the pump to the CPU socket. Now that we got our uni fans out, let's go ahead and unbox these uni fans so we can go ahead and prepare them on top of the AIO. Pretty simple when it comes to these uni fans. You're going to get 3 cables. It's going to connect the RGB and the PWM, which we're not going to use all 3. And you guys get 3 fans. Let's go ahead and put everything inside this box, and let's get these installed. So get the box out of the way. All right, so what we're going to do now is taking the plastics out of each fan, placing them here on the table, so that way we can go ahead and attach these. And guys, remember, these are daisy chainable fans, so they have a locking mechanism that you just literally hook up, and you are all set. All right, now that we put the fans outside the plastic, these are gonna be the fans. So like I said earlier, these are interlockable, so how they lock in is simple. You find the notches that align, and I'm trying to find the notches that align myself, and there you go. You lock them in. So there's one, and the last one we're gonna go ahead and find, and this one, same thing. You slide it in, and bada bing, bada boom. Now you got 3 fans, interlocked, easiest thing ever. These are my favorite fans. So we got the fans all set up. Now, next thing we gotta do is hook up these fans onto this 360mm radiator from the Kraken. And we're gonna see, pretty much it's gonna be simple. Let's put this aside right here, and they will just line up like this, and voila. Now that we have the fans set up on top of the radiator, everything looks good as far as clearance. I think the holes align perfectly. Next up, we're gonna use the radiator screws that came with the Kraken Z73 packaging and just go ahead and screw down the fans onto the radiator to make sure everything is nice and in place. So we'll start off with the top right screw, and then afterwards I like to go with the bottom left screw just to make sure that when you're going and attach all these screws, everything gets aligned perfectly. You know, I've had so many times we put these in, and sometimes you get one screw that just does not fully align with the radiator. So there you go. So now we got the top left and top right, bottom right, and we're gonna continue our way working down and screwing all the fans in. So let's get this one in. Now remember guys, there's 12 radiator fans, so we want to make sure we use all 12. I see some people sometimes skipping screws, which is totally fine because these are interlocking and they're not going to go anywhere, but I like to screw it all in just to keep everything attached to the radiator and everything cools efficiently. So let's go into this one. Let's get this one set up. You don't want to tighten them too much because you don't want to hit the radiator fins and cause a leak when you guys actually install this and turn on your PC. So just enough where you feel it's tight, and that should be sufficient enough to take care of your cooling for you. All right, so there we go. And we can already see the fans are actually now staying flush to the radiator, which I like to see, because now I know that it's gonna exhaust air from the heated radiator quickly, and there's not gonna be any air leakage between the fans. So I like to do that. Make sure these are all tightened up as well. 2 more screws left, and we will be all ready. Let's get this screw in and tighten this one, and last but not least, the last screw. All right, if we can get this on, let's tighten this up as well. And there you have it, ladies and gents. We got the whole Lee & Lee fans all nice and done. All right, so now that we have the fans set up on the radiator, what we're gonna do next is put the radiator inside the side area inside the chassis and hook up the AIO pump to the CPU. So let's go ahead and do that, and let's see where we end up at. So after taking a look at the setup layout that I initially thought was gonna be the best route, I've come to realize, no, that's not gonna be the best route. Having the radiator right here in the side panel area is just not gonna be ideal for anything. The cabling is just not gonna look as good. And I thought, well, how can we change this up? So I thought maybe the best route would actually be hooking up the radiator to the top part of the chassis. That way when we hook up the pump to the CPU, we won't have the cables hitting the ram sticks and kind of just not looking so sloppy. When we hook it up on the top part of the chassis, we can then tuck the cables above the GPU and it'll look really clean and nice when we're setting the system up. So let's go ahead and hook up this top radiator to the top of the chassis and get this AIO installed. The first thing we're gonna do is screw in the radiator with its screws that came with the packaging, and we got the first one in. Let's go in for the second one. And like I said, I like to do opposite screwing, that way it can be held together nice and kind of distribute all the way, like I said, and kind of hold it in place. Got the second one in, and there you go. Now let's get the rest of the screws in. That way the radiator is nice, attached and snug. And let's get this one, the bottom one now. Cool, got the bottom. Sometimes so many parts come with so many screws to screw in, but it is what it is. This is what we do. Screw that one, the bottom one. Now let's go for the bottom left, top right. All right, bottom right, get that one all set up. And we have literally 2 more screws left. Actually, probably, yeah, 2 more. Top right, and the last screw. Let's get that one in, and there you go. All the screws are in. Radiator is nice and set up clean. And now it's time to hook up the pump to the CPU. So let's go ahead and do that and attach the rest of the fans and the GPU, and we're pretty much there. The one thing to take note is when you're working with AIO pumps, you want to make sure the corresponding bracket matches your chipset and the type of CPU you're using. For this one in specific, we're working with an AM4, so we got to remove this LG socket bracket off and put an AM4 one. To do that is simple. All you do is remove the plastic covering for the thermal paste, and you're gonna see the pump bracket right here. Now with the Kraken Z73, all you gotta do literally is push down and turn it counterclockwise, and it'll pop off. Then we're gonna go ahead and grab our AM4 bracket, put it in where it fits, get it, put it in where it fits, and then go ahead and push down and turn clockwise. And now you have your AM4 bracket on. All that there's left to do is connect the cables. It is recommended to actually connect the cables before attaching it to the CPU, so that's what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna go ahead and connect it to its corresponding slot, push down on it, make sure it's nice and connected, and attach it to the CPU block. Once bringing down, make sure that it aligns the CPU for its bolts and find where it would go in and gently bring it down. Now that we have this connected, we are gonna make sure it is all nice and snug. You're gonna grab your captive nut screws right here, and you're gonna go ahead and place them in. Tighten one out. You wanna finger tighten it. You don't wanna use a wrench or anything. You can use a screwdriver at the end to just make sure it's tight, but you're just gonna do it one at a time, and you're gonna make sure the second one is in. Sometimes these can be a little difficult when putting in, but just find the right area where it threads it in and go ahead and tighten it up. And you don't want to tighten it too hard at first. You just want to go ahead and try to lock each one down. And once you guys feel like it is all locked in, or at least threaded, then you could go ahead and use a screwdriver to finish the job off. And we're gonna put this one in right here. Okay, and now we're gonna grab a screwdriver and just tighten it up so we can get close contact with the CPU. All right, last but not least, everything is nice and tight. You don't want to go too tight where you feel like you're breaking it, but just enough where you can't feel the screwdriver even turning it. That's going to be where you want to leave it at. And everything is all good. So we got the AIO in, we got the fan set up, We got the cables hooked up to the AIO, which will be plugging into the motherboard. Also, we got bottom fans left and the side fans, and hook up the GPU. So let's go ahead and start doing the bottom fans, and then we'll do the middle fans, and then that's when we're gonna set up the GPU. So let's get that installed. So before we get the fans installed, I thought the easiest thing to do is actually hook up the front panel connectors. So we got an HD audio right over here, USB 3.0 header, the front panel connectors over here, and a USB 3.2 type C header for the USB-C. Let's get these hooked up to the motherboard, so that way it could be easier to do it this way as opposed to hooking the fans up first on the bottom and trying to squeeze our hands into these little spaces. First connection we're gonna make is the USB 3.2 type C header, which is gonna go in here. You set that up, that's one. Next up, we got the USB 3.0 header, which we're gonna go put in the same route, and that one should actually be right here. It should be actually right angle connection, and we are gonna pop that in like so. All right, set up nice. What's left now is the HD audio and the front panel connector. So let's get the HD audio out, and we are gonna hook this up to the bottom one right over here. Let's put that in right here. Okay, let's move the SSD cage and the front panel connectors, which will squeeze in right here, and it should be right over here. Boom. And there you go. All right, so now that we got the front panel connectors connected, we're just gonna go ahead and hook up the bottom fans and the side fans, and that would just leave us putting in the power supply and the GPU. So let's get the bottom fans in, the side fans in, and we'll go from there. Now that we have the PC fans out on the table, you guys can tell they are happy and they're excited to go inside this gaming PC. But hold on, before we put them inside, we need to connect one last bit of connection to it, and that is the connection to the breakout box from the Lee device. Now guys, one thing you guys gotta make sure is when you're connecting these fans, you're gonna find the pins that are sticking out, find where the arrow is, and just go ahead and pop forward. And you're gonna do the same thing for the other set of fans. Now the good thing is with these Lee daisy chain fans, you can connect up to 4 sets of fans to one box. So this is gonna be plenty for us, and now they're ready to go inside the chassis. We're gonna find the area to put in the fans. I'm gonna have the cables coming out so we can tuck it in nicely underneath the chassis, so it won't be coming up in the front of the fan. So we're gonna place them right here, and these are gonna be pretty much exhaust fans on the bottom, exhaust fans on the top and side, so any heat inside will just be sucked out. So let's go ahead and connect this in, find the first hole where it goes, and tighten it up. Now, just a quick reminder, these case fans, sometimes they're not threaded, so you may have to pre-thread them, but it's not a big deal. It's just they're not as hard as some fans would be, but you're just gonna go ahead and just pre-thread them. Use some gloves if you guys are gonna get calluses or anything like that, just to help out your fingers. That's what I do, but it's not that bad. All right, so now we got the bottom fans in, nice and secure. They're looking great. This is it. Now what we got left is the side fans. The side fans, let's see which way they're gonna go in. I think this way is the best route, just so we can hide the cables and go directly into the rubber grommet. And let's go ahead and bring them right here. Perfect. Let's screw these in. And last but not least, let's get this last fan in, guys, and we'll move on to the GPU and power supply. There are a couple few things we got to do when it comes to cable management as well. For example, I got to connect the Lee control box so you can control the PWM and the RGB, and pretty much that's it. There's really not many cables that we're going to be doing for this PC. So we should actually be done with this very soon, and it's not that bad, right? When you're not doing water cooling, especially custom loops, it's not that long, you know. It's only when you get into custom loops, it takes a quite amount of time, just because you got to plan your loop out, you got to do bends, you got to do a whole bunch of things that you really don't need to do when you're just doing an AIO cooler and just the air-cooled graphics card. All right. So Fans are all nice and set up. I also finished up some of the cable management. Got some of the AIO cables out of the way. Looks nice and tidy. Just looks beautiful, guys. I mean, I'm impressed. Where's the pat on the back? Here it is, guys. Next up is gonna be the GPU and power supply. So, without further ado, let's grab the RTX 3080. All right. So here she is, the EVGA RTX 3080 for the Win 3 Ultra Edition. It's a bad boy, hard to get, and it's gonna really make this PC into the PC it should be. Let's get this opened up, and let's get this bad boy up. We need our handy dandy box cutter. Gotta make sure we don't cut our own fingers off doing this. The excitement, the sheer excitement of a 3080. All right. Oh God, we didn't go all the way with this one. There you go. Get this one out. And, oh, it's a tough one. All right. So let's open this up and let's check out the merchandise. Struggle taking this one out. All right, but we got it. We got it. Chuck this in. We don't need the box anymore. Forget the box. Let's get this bad boy out. Oh, come on. Come on, buddy. I know you want to come out and show me your horsepower. There it is, guys. Wow, I mean, look at this. So for the Win 3 Ultra is a very beefy graphics card. Pretty long and pretty thick. That's what she said. But other than that, RGBs all around. You guys can see there's a nice glow on the top of the bar. There's also going to be RGB right here. I like the back cover. It's like this snake skin. It's just such a nice card. Such a nice card. All right, so we're going to go ahead and install this right in here, and from there, power supply goes in, then the Strimmer cables, and guys, she's going to be ready to spark full of greatness. All right, let's get this hooked up. It's pretty simple. When you're installing a GPU, just go ahead and line up the notches with the PCI Express slot, and you should hear a nice satisfying click. And that's how we know we got it in. So once we have it set up inside and we know it's nice and secured, we're gonna go ahead and grab our screwdriver and just go ahead and screw the thumb screws for those slots that we took out earlier and just tighten it up. We'll do one. You want to keep it up as much as possible just to keep the card upright. It is a heavy card. You don't want to sag. So the best thing is just hold it up while you're screwing it, and that will keep it into place. All right, let's get this last bit in. And voila, everything is nice and set up. Graphics cards are in. Time to put in the power supply. This is a gold rated power supply. Very efficient, making sure that all the components don't ever die on you. And I would say recommend actually going gold and above, which he chose gold, perfect for the components we have in here. So let's get this opened up and let's see this power supply in action. See what we got in the box. Power cord, a bunch of PSU cables, and power supply. It's a nice size. Really recommend Corsair when it comes to power supplies, just because they're very, very efficient. You're not gonna have a problem with Corsair, or personally I haven't in the past, but let's go ahead and get this installed and put inside the system. Once we put this inside the system, we'll connect the Strimmer cables and a few other power supply cables that is needed, and we're all done dotty. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so behind the chassis, you're gonna see an area to put in the power supply. You're just gonna go ahead and fit it properly back here, align the screw holes, and start screwing it in. And you guys heard me say screw it in probably 100 times, but that's all you do when you're building a PC, is you're screwing it in. Sounds savage, but it's the truth. All right, make sure you guys do the crisscross method. Just makes life a lot easier, distributes the weight perfectly, and just finish the job up nice and clean. All right, so we got the last screw to put in, and we are all set and done. So guys, don't mind the cable management. I'll be taking care of more of the cables and tidying things up. Also, we're gonna be starting to install the Strimmer cables and the ATX cables. So let's go ahead and do that so we can finish up this PC. So now that we got the power supply all nice and snug in the case, it's time to hook up the cables. What I have are two Lee cables. These are the Strimmer Plus cables. One is a 24 pin for the motherboard and one's a triple 8 pin for the graphics card. Now, I know I told you guys in the beginning of the video that this was gonna be a dual 8 pin, but I made a mistake. It's gonna be a triple 8 pin. I forgot that for the Win 3 Ultra Edition has 3 8 pin connectors because it has a beefy power unit. So we're gonna go ahead and connect these. We'll start off with the 8 pin, we'll start off with the 24 pin motherboard cable. So let's get this inside, just a little wiggle, get it all the way in. And I'm not too worried about pushing it all the way in at first, just because we can tweak with that a little bit once it's in. So we're gonna pop that in and we should hear click, nice and sturdy. 24 pin is in and that's looking good. Now let's get the triple 8 pin connector for the graphics card. So basically I got the last bit of cable installed, which was the Strimmer cables, the triple 8 pin, but the one issue I ran into was my video camera died mid installation. So I wasn't actually able to record that, but I got it all installed perfectly. Now, I thought I was gonna hit some clearance issues, but actually it looked like it worked out fine. It is kind of like bending in a rainbow form. It is a rainbow RGB cable, so I guess you can find the coincidence in that. But pretty much everything is all set up. Now it's just time to connect the power supply cables to some of these extenders and also connect the Lee control box to control the fans. So let's go ahead and do that and let's finish this PC up. So let's get these power connectors connected. So we got one for the motherboard. Now these are breaker cables, so you're gonna have two for the ATX, the 24 pin. We're gonna find the slot where it needs to go in. Oops, got it the wrong way. And there you go. Pop it in. And we got the last one for the motherboard inside. Perfect. We also got two CPU cables. One's gonna be an 8 pin, the other one is gonna be a 4 pin. So let's connect the 8 pin first. Connect that one in. And let's get the 4 pin connected. So we got the CPU cables, which will route to the top grommet. We got our 24 pin connected to our extender, which is the Strimmer cables. And we gotta hook up the PCI Express cables as well. Pop 2. Now we'll just route the CPU cables up here so we can go ahead and install them. And there you go. All right, cabling is all done, looking all good and nice and tidy. Now, one thing I didn't do is show the cable management process, and that was just because everybody has their own style. When it comes to cable management, it really depends on how you want to do it. For me personally, we had two Lee control boxes in here, one for the Strimmers and one for the uni fans. So I had to find a way to manage to kind of get that settled in, and pretty much everything was easy from there. 24 pin ATX connected to the power supply, CPU connected, and the extenders for the PCI Express cables. But pretty much it looks good. I think it looks good. And next thing on the list is let's power this up. So let me go ahead and turn this around so you guys can see. All right, there she goes. All right, where is the power connector? All right, let's get this going. All right, moment of truth, ladies and gents. Will she power on or will she completely fail us? Let's see. Success! We got it going on and everything, my God, everything is lighting up. I feel like Christmas is already here, right? Everything's lighting up. Memory sticks are lighting up. Strimmer cables are lighting up. Even our NZXT Kraken Z73 is lighting up. Graphics card, look at that beautiful RGB glow right on the graphics cards. I mean, this is a spectacular build, and kind of want to pat myself on the back again, just because this was actually one of the funnest builds I've done in a long time. Again, thanks a lot to Justin, who provided the components and asked me to help him out to build this PC. It was an honor, and I hope he's gonna enjoy it as much as I enjoyed building it for him. And when it comes to building PCs, I just think it's one of the most best processes, just a way to let off any type of steam, especially things that are going on. It's a little bit hard these days, but yeah, I'm really happy with the build. I think it looks awesome. Now it's just giving it to Justin and seeing how he likes the performance. But other than that, guys, make sure you guys comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of this first episode on this series. Do you guys want to see more of these type of episodes? I'd love to hear your comments. And also, guys, don't forget to hit that like button down below, and also subscribe for more content coming your way very soon. And until next time, guys, catch you on the next one. Guys, you didn't think I would leave you hanging like that, did you? No, I got the complete version of this build in a time-lapse format. So for all those people that just want to see the build and get straight to the action, that's gonna be the video for you. Make sure you guys tune in and watch that build in time-lapse plus the montage at the end. Hope you guys enjoy.